Greetings! My name is Edward, and in this video you're going to learn how to make a Goomba walk across a bluish screen, kind of like this. The Goomba is going to walk off the screen. You can't control it. But we'll learn how to do that in another video. For now, let's get started. At this point, you should have two files in your platformer project. You should have a folder for your project with two files in it. The one on the left side of the screen that you can see over here is a copy of my usual PyGame reference file. I always import this whenever I'm working on PyGame. I've filled in a background color that I like. I have my dimensions, my screen dimensions, 1000 by 1000. I've given it a name. It's PyGame Platformer Tutorial. And then it has everything else I need to make PyGame work. The other file, the one on the other side of the screen, is my Goomba class file. And so this one's called unit class. Again, you can find a link in the description with all of that code. You just need to download it. I'm going to explain how parts of it work. But basically, the idea here is that you can download that or copy it into a file, and then instead of having to animate a sprite yourself, and instead of being stuck with just a rectangle that you have to move, and that's not that cool, you can download this. I handle the animation for you, and then you get to fill in the code for making it move left and move right. This one, the code that I have right here on screen, already has code that does most of the stuff that we want. You can see right here what I do is for move left, you can see I'm determining the sprite. I'm determining where it goes through a list of 8 sprites. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It just keeps repeating those, and that's the animation. But it's the left-facing sprite is the big thing. And then on move right, that function will determine that it needs to be right-facing based on the value of the velocity. But all that my move left and move right functions do is just change the velocity of the Goomba. So I'm going to walk you through creating a Goomba in your main file, which is the one on the left. The one on the right, we're not going to change any of the code in there. As it is right here, it works totally fine. I'm going to give a link for a more bare bones one, so that you have to write the move left and move right yourself if you're interested in doing that. But basically, right now, I want you to be comfortable with the idea that if you say, Goomba.move left, it's going to move left. Basically, what it does is it sets the velocity to -3, and then you need to have a Goomba.update at the end of your loop. And basically, what that'll do is it's going to add the velocity to the Goomba's x value. So if the velocity is -3, it's going to be adding -3 every time you go through a loop, meaning it's going to move to the left. We also have some code in there for handling jumping, but obviously we're not doing that in this tutorial yet. This is the final product. But looking over to the left, the template that we have, the bare bones, we're going to start by creating the actual Goomba object. To create the Goomba object, you need one line of code. I'm going to paste it, it's just that right there. And what that's going to do is create a variable called player. And basically what I'm saying here is I'm saying look for the file unit class. Obviously this has to be in the same folder as the unit class.py, which again you can download. And it's saying look for that file and then find the Goomba class in there. So it's going to be looking for this right here, and then it's going to run this function. So this function over here is called a constructor, and it creates the data type for us. So it's going to load in all the data that we need to create a Goomba, keep track of the sprites, keep track of the x and y values and stuff like that. It's going to load all the images and stuff as well. You need to pass through an x and a y coordinate when you get started, and pay attention that it's a tuple. It is not an x and then a y argument. It's you need to have those inside their own parentheses. It's a tuple. It's a list, and that's all you need to do to create a Goomba. That alone isn't going to actually draw it though. So first off, actually, I noticed that before we go any further, we actually have to import unit class. So this is just whenever you want to use any file. In the same folder, you have to put it in your import statement. Import, and then the name of the file without the .py. So there we are. We've imported it. We've created our player. And that's all we have to do before starting the actual loop that is the actual game running. There are no events that we're gonna like look for because we're not gonna make him move left and right yet. We're just gonna make him move to the right. I put all of my code in like a very like strict structure of like event, update, draw. Event, update, draw, right? It's a loop, so it's going to keep going through there. Inside of the update block, I'm now going to write player, which is the name of our Goomba. I'm going to say player.update. Since, again, I have that function down below. I believe it's somewhere down here. Boom. And then I'm going to draw the Goomba. And so this is something that if you haven't worked with sprites before, if you have only seen like my other tutorials where we start off by drawing rectangles to the screen, for that you do like pygame.draw.rect. And that's a very like simple, straightforward thing. For this one, you use the blit function, and blit belongs to the surface class or surface object from PyGame. So I'm going to flip over there really quickly, and you can see here's the PyGame documentation. Please be comfortable with it. You know, you don't have to like read through all of it, but if you click on surface, it'll bring you to the page I'm looking at right now, pygame.surface. Whenever you create your window, this is something that's like in like the, this is something that's in all of my PyGame files, no matter what. It's this line right here, line 10. Whenever you create that, you get a variable back. You say win equals, and that win, you know, we've already used it. We use it for, like, that's how we fill the background color. There's a lot of stuff that we use that for. For drawing sprites, you're going to use win.blit. And so again, this is this function right here. Right here, it's the first one, pygame.surface.blit. Draw one image onto another. And so it accepts two parameters. You can see source, meaning, you know, where you're drawing it to. Or sorry, my bad, not what's the source, what's the image that you're drawing. So that is going to be the sprite that we want to draw. And there's a function to help you figure that out. And then dest is going to be the x and y coordinates. So the draw can be positioned with the dest argument. It says it right there. Again, those are x, y coordinates in a tuple. So you have to have parenthesis, x, comma, y. It's not going to be image, comma, x, comma, y. It's going to be image, comma, x, y. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to type win.blit, player dot, and then again I have, you can see the function down here, get sprite. So you're going to do get sprite, and that'll get whatever the current sprite is, because that's going to change, and that's why, you know, we're using a function. We're not saying just draw the Goomba, like this Goomba, the one that's just always moving that way. We're going to use a function so that we can change it, and then it's going to constantly get whatever the new sprite is. And then open up with parentheses and close. So I'm opening up those two parentheses right there, because again, I'm going to need to pass through coordinates. So player dot, and then again, I also have a get x and a player dot, I'll full screen it so you can see more easily, get y. So it's a lot of parentheses, so make sure you can track that. Having a code editor that can match parentheses is pretty important, I think. It's a small thing, but it's important. Player.getX is going to get the x value. Player.getY is going to get the y value. And since those are functions, they're going to be updating every time we go through the loop, which means the Goomba will be able to move and we can track it. So I believe that that's it. We have player.update and we have that. He's not going to do anything, but let's just go ahead in the update block. Let's just do player.move right. And so again, this is a method that or a function I've already constructed for you. One last thing, actually, before we test this. I actually didn't mention this earlier, and now I've updated my folder to reflect it. We need an assets folder. So you should have a project folder, 2 files inside of it. Ignore the PyCache stuff. But then you should also have a folder inside of that folder, and it should be called assets with a capital A. Again, I'm providing these files in the description. And all that's in here are all the Goomba pictures, all the Goomba sprites. So those are just a bunch of image files that the code is going to pull to create the animation of the Goomba. And I like to put that in. I'd like to put them in their own folder. So without further ado, we can now run our code, and behold, we have our animated Goomba. Look at him. He's really cute. And so in the next video, we'll actually control him, because right now he's just running off screen. But in the next video, we'll make it so that we can control him with our arrow keys, and that's the goal. Stay tuned.